beautiful, your book.
Thank you.
I have absolutely loved reading the book because it makes us look at a city in a completely different way. And I loved the places where, for example, Neha talks of very ordinary things like if you live on the first floor, these are the birds you see from your balcony if there's a tree outside. If you're on the third floor, they change. And she talks about the trees in the neighborhood. And she talks about a tree she began speaking with as a little girl. And I just wanted to read, if I may, just 4 lines of a little poem by Priscilla Uppal, which is about talking to trees. And this is an excerpt from it, which goes, I've read somewhere it might be useful, healing, in fact, to talk to trees. Better yet, to pick a tree that might indeed be your special tree of life, your spirit tree. So when you were 11, you found your spirit tree, you named it the sea tree, and you shared it with someone called Shakuntala. Will you talk about that?
Thank you, Anuradha. Shakuntala was somebody who lived in my house. She was the daughter of the caretaker of the house. And Shakuntala knew how wild things grew in a way that I didn't. And she used to love the jungle jalebi tree. And when she first told me we are going to get jalebi, I thought she meant we'll go to the halwai. But what she meant is the jungle jalebi tree, and I didn't believe that the tree would have fruit that looked like jalebis. The tree is a very forbidding looking tree. It's got these tiny leaves, it's got these big thorns. And she made a kind of instrument or weapon to bring the fruit down. She took a bamboo, she smashed it, she stuck a rock in the head of the bamboo, and she twisted the branch till the fruit fell down. And the fruit was actually terrible, Anuradha. It was not sweet. It was very stringy, like astringent kind of feeling. And then she told me something I'll never forget. She said, you need to work to get the fruit. And I realized then, earlier on, that when you're foraging for something that's maybe a wild fruit or a wild berry, it tastes so different from the stuff that comes on our plates. It tastes so different from something that we buy at a department store. But that pursuit of waiting for the tree to have fruit, waiting for the fruit to ripen, waiting to bring it down, and having the needles, the thorns needle into your skin kind of adds to the taste of it. And so I first ate jungle jalebi with Shakuntala. And by the time I was older, like a lot of my friends didn't know what jungle jalebi was. And I think it really bothers me that there are many ecological words that we've forgotten. I think amnesia can sometimes be convenient. Amnesia is sometimes just something that happens to us and we don't even get to know about it. So just like jungle jalebi, there's another fruit called falsa, which I used to get in my childhood, and you still get it, but you have to really pursue it and look for it. And there are so many other words that we've now forgotten, such as jugnu, the firefly, or kirni, which is another fruit. And the book is also trying to remember these things that we've forgotten. And I am never going to forget being this kind of wild 11-year-old with Shakuntala, going to our tree, getting, pricked by the thorns every time. And just that abandon and that pursuit, and just that feeling of waiting for the tree to flower and fruit. It's unforgettable, and it's very grounding.
Did you find that the fact that she found the fruit delicious, you did not, taught you something about deprivation and class? And later on in the book, when you went walking through different and difficult terrain with a bunch of people, that wildlife either taught you about people or brought disparate people together?
So I think the first thing, as I said, my friends didn't know what jungle jalebi is because my friends belong to a different class from Shakuntala. And the fact that the way language comes to us or the way things in nature come to us is highly curated. in our lives today. So we might know what an avocado is, but we might not know what a jalebi of a tree is. And we might know a dahlia and a chrysanthemum, which grows in our gardens, in the manicured gardens of the colonial imagination. But we don't know what is a capparis, which is a beautiful desert tree that has beautiful fruit and beautiful flowers. We might not know how to even interact with wildlife or go out in nature. And it is only going out in nature that's helped me break out of my class privilege or my very limited understanding of the world. And after COVID, when we were all sick and we were all wounded in our souls as well, because COVID did that to us. I think it turned us inwards. We were so isolated. We felt like we would never break out of the shackles of the disease, but also the shackles of despair, because it was a disease that seeped into our bones. It was a disease that made us feel like we would never be free again. The moment the pandemic ended, we decided to go out on a nature walk led by a villager, Sunil Harsana, who's in this book. And we went into a mine in the Aravalli mountains. And this is crazy, unconsolidated Bajri soil or sand. And the whole path is twisting and falling. And it's a disparate group of people. There are villagers, there are people like me, there are other people who've never done a nature walk before, but feel this burning urge to walk because they've all been indoors, jailed during COVID. And so we all walk and we realize very fast that being out in nature shows you who your friends are and who you can lean on. So literally speaking, we're going down this Bajri slope and it's all moving and heaving and shifting. And we know very quickly that we have to hold hands or hold each other's shoulders. Someone is older, we have to look out for that person. Someone is wearing the wrong shoes, you have to look out for that person. So we become not one person, but a caterpillar with many legs going at the same pace in the same direction. And going out in nature immediately gives you that opportunity of making very deep friendships and making friendships that last a lifetime. And sometimes you can be friends and all you know is their favorite coffee order, but it's only when you're climbing a hill or going into the forest that you realize what a person is made of. And going out in nature has helped me, as I said, to find these people, to find my tribe really in the world.
Tell me what it is like to go out in nature in a city as a woman. I was very struck by the part where you go off early in the morning and you are simply trying to park a car at the zoo or the Purana Killa in order to look at the Semal tree.
So, what do I say about being a woman that hasn't been said before? But this I will say, that when you're a woman standing there looking at a bird or looking at a tree, just doing your research, it's something that immediately challenges all the men around you. So they're like, what are you doing? Why are you here? Like, you should not be here. This is not a safe place. So either they will want to protect you in some way by saying this is not safe for you, or they just want you to leave, because men get to loiter, but not so much women. And therefore, the sort of community I found in the book, another woman who walks with me, Valerie Scheel, we kind of create this bodyguard system in which when she's doing her observation, I'm just kind of standing around her, just, getting everybody to leave if anyone is crowding around us. And I have to say, in a city like Delhi, where the size of your car matters much more than the size of your service, or who your father is matters much more than anything you've ever done, it is much harder for women. It is much harder to be out in the early mornings or in the late nights. And the fear of the dark or the fear of going to places where women are not supposed to be is very deeply ingrained. It is passed down from our families to us. So, you can go to college, you can go to university, you can go to buy milk, but you're not supposed to be standing under a tree by the roadside. The very word roadside is a word that suggests a pedestrian kind of loitering, almost like a degraded activity. But a lot of the trees we were studying were roadside trees. So then we just had to make our own little, system of me being the bodyguard or her being my bodyguard, because we have to snatch joy when we
In
can.
spite of everything, the way you write about spotting these particular simmels or other trees in particular places, the way you go into the deer park to look for fireflies in the dark, all these things really made me want to rush out and find those same trees and fireflies as well. So you do communicate a lot of the absolute joy of finding all these things in your surroundings.
I think it's Deepa Bhasti who said that translation is an act of love. And I feel, as someone who works in conservation, it is my job to translate what the animal is trying to say, or the fact that the animal just wants to live. It kind of goes through similar things that we do. And at the end of the day, it wants to live, it wants to survive. And to be able to see these animals, the more than 400 bird species in Delhi, leopards, jackals, hyenas even in Delhi, which also are part of the Aravali mountain range. And we're in Jaipur right now. And the Aravalis extend, of course, from Delhi to Rajasthan to Gujarat, one of the oldest mountain ranges on earth. To be able to share our lives with these animals is a privilege and a joy, and to be able to tell their stories is something I do not take lightly. So for me, it is an experience that's full of joy and wonder, because I feel it's very easy to forget what life is like without the jugnu, without the firefly. I feel
Tell us
somehow,
about the fireflies.
yeah, so I feel that when I was younger, there was this bird called the hood bird or the hoopoe. I'm sure many people in the audience will remember. Yeah, you do. And honestly, I thought it was a woodpecker pecking on the ground. I didn't know it's a hoopoe because I didn't have a bird book at that time. But the hoopoe is pretty much gone from most lawns today. In fact, not only the hoopoe, the fireflies are doing badly all over the world. And to think that you had a childhood where there was a light winking in the distance, and that light is now replaced by just street lights and other kinds of light, to think that there is an animal, an insect, that's basically looking for love. So they're actually, they
Why
flash.
have the fireflies gone?
So the fireflies in the monsoon flash their lights to find a mate. So the male will display his light and he's just looking for belonging and his companion. The female will be on the ground also flashing a light. That's a little dimmer. But the amount of light in the world has really confused them, has disoriented them. So, in fact, the book talks about leaving a few places a little wild and a little dark, because we also need darkness in the night. And it's not just for the fireflies, it's also for many other nocturnal creatures that get disoriented when there's too much light. And though light is associated with safety for women, safety for men, safety for anyone who lives in the city, it's also important for the wilder areas, the areas with long grass, the areas which have a little bit of native vegetation, to actually be dark in the monsoon so that fireflies can live. And of course, we also need to reduce the chemical load on all the grasses. And I want to say, we need to decolonize our lawns. We need to decolonize our forests, because there's a British idea that we inherited that thorny trees are ugly trees. And a lot of trees of India are thorny trees. A lot of trees of India are, arid, scrub vegetation. It's a hot country. But the idea that they don't appeal to us is an anachronism. And, to be able to grow the native would be the first act of resistance.
But as you say, they are seen as jungly trees, and that urban horticulture policies often will fell a fully grown tree perceived as jungly in order to plant one perceived as non-jungly.
I found a grove of jal trees in Delhi. It's about at least 350 years old. This is a desert tree. It takes decades to even look like a tree. It's a little bush, then it looks like a tree after 50 years. And so we found these 350-year-old trees, and in some places they had been cut down. And I want to say that being out in nature gives you time to understand how time works, to respect time, and to respect the time a tree takes to become a tree. And if we want to replace our beautiful old native Indian trees with something that grows very fast, something that's not from the region, it's like a junk food concept in a way. It's like saying, let me just eat instant noodles. It'll take much less time to cook, but it'll taste fine. But then, it's not doing anything for you. It's not doing anything for the ecosystem of your body. Just like, planting a eucalyptus, which grows fast, or a vilayati kikar. It's just junk food, really, for the area.
What would you, suppose people, those who've read your book, like me, and immediately want to go out and experience the city through your eyes, how would we start the day? How would we go about it? What do we need apart from good shoes?
I would say wake up early. I mean, this is a gift that I have for myself to have 1 hour to myself. Sometimes it's not 1 hour. Sometimes it's just maybe 30 minutes or 20 minutes. But even a little time is good time if it's out in nature. So wake up early and go outside, wherever that is. It could just be a small balcony. During COVID, my followers on Twitter and Instagram would tell me, I saw a dinosaur today. And what they really meant was a monitor lizard. So the Bengal monitor lizard is completely harmless. It's not a dinosaur. But a lot of people had time during COVID to look outside the bars of their window, to stand on their veranda and to observe what's happening. And they all came and said, oh, there's so many birds and animals. And the fact is, they've always been there. They actually share our buildings. This very place where we are in right now must be having civet cats, which come out in the night, porcupines perhaps, snakes, a variety of reptiles, etc. And the idea just is, do we see them? And if we see them, do we hate them? Do we just look at them as an inconvenience? Or can we begin to accept that we share this world with many other things? And actually, so much of our life comes from nature, right? So I feel in my life, being able to observe a bird or a tree has enriched my life. It's given me a stillness when I am feeling anxious.
But on the other hand, caring for these wild things, like you describe in your book, you have a grove of trees. 1 month later, you go there and they've put a road through it. There's nothing there. Or they've put a metro line through it. So does caring for wild things and nature bring you quite a lot of grief, and is that inevitable?
I think the word is a loss for something that will never come back, right? And the feeling is nostalgic almost. So you love something and you lose it. But I think someone famously said it's better to have loved and lost than not to have loved at all. I'm going to use that here. So yes, there's a lot of grief when you care about nature, when animals are killed, when habitats are destroyed. But it's also very meaningful to love something. It's also very meaningful to find yourself when you're going out every single time. And I think finally, it is meaningful also because nature is so cyclical. The fact is, nature will always endure. And it's very comforting to know that nature will always be there.
But will it always be there?
It will be there in a different state.
Nostalgia.
Nostalgia, yes.
Nostalgia?
So nostalgia is basically feeling that nostalgia for something that you've lost and something
to lose.
That will never come back. So it could be the lake behind your house. It could be the sound of crickets in the night. I'm sure everyone will agree that the sound of crickets has gone down in the monsoon. There was this dawn chorus that we would hear in the morning. But I am saying all these animals are fighting to live. And I think that shows us that they're worth fighting for, because they are there, they're enduring, and that shows us that we have so many riches in our country. I feel very privileged to live in India, actually, because out of all the countries in the world, this is the one which has both the tiger and the tiger beetle and the tiger butterfly, and you have this profusion of wildflowers, and you have this profusion of sounds that come to you. So if I'm in Ranikhet and you're in a corner of the world, there are different woodpeckers making this drumbeat in the morning. And in Delhi, you have the coppersmith barbet going on. And I have to say, it's very otherworldly to focus on a beetle or a bird, because it has nothing to do with the Excel sheet I'm working on. It has nothing to do with the budgets I'm working on. It's just living its own life. It's very, it has a very busy schedule doing what it does. And it gives me a lot of relief to see a bird being busy living its own life, completely different from my own.
But you know what? Because we have not been good with our schedule, you had wanted to read just a tiny bit, and you could do that for
Do we? Should we?
just a few seconds.
Very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, this is about being scared while going into the dark, because I was told not to go into the dark. At the lip of Sanjay 1, where the darkness bleeds into lights from nearby eateries, I hesitate. That is a line I must not cross. Inherited from my father, discussed with my girlfriends, hated and accepted, that line crawls over my skin. My friend Nikhil is leading a night survey in Sanjay 1, part of the Delhi Ridge Forest. But I'm pausing at the entrance. I can't go into the dark.
I think we will have to leave it at that because they are.
Do I have one more minute?
Yeah?
I have. Okay.
Carry.
I have been to Sanjay 1 many times, just never in the darkness. Behind us, a tree with feathery leaves stands outside. A sound comes from that tree, throwing itself with full force against the night. It is hoarse like a bark. It also sounds thrilled. There's an owl on the tree, a bird with triangular horns on its head. This is the Indian scops owl. And we watch it looking at us with all-seeing eyes. Scops owls are lovers of old trees, and that stirs something in me, a recognition, a relation. If we could both spend our lives under old trees, we'd both be happy. In that, the owl and I are the same. There will be more owls inside, Nikhil tells me. And he knows in the way of old friends that I need a nudge to get into the dark. I listen again to the scop owl's cry, turning it around in my mind. How wild it is, how bucking, how unafraid. It is an all or nothing kind of cry, the sort that moves the entire being of the birds and the observers. It has no decorum, it's just all declaration. If we listen in the right way, it is exciting rather than scary. I decide to walk in.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much.